No. All right, welcome to the weight loss workshop. Thank you for being here on your Thursday night and taking some time for yourself and your health today. I really hope this is helpful for you, and we're going to just be going over some things that you can do to start losing weight and how to keep it off and make your goals and help you reach your goals. All right, and can you guys see the screen change?
Yes.
Okay. So just some overall goals for today. We're going to be going over why fad diets don't work and what they're doing to make our weight loss journey not as sustainable. We're also going to be going over how to get started on your weight loss journey, and I'm going to help give you some tools that you need to help create sustainable habits. And we're going to be going over some food that you can incorporate in your diet that helps and has been proven and has been studied to show to help with weight loss. And so, why are we concerned with weight loss and what happens if we do nothing? So, being overweight puts us more at risk for high blood pressure, high cholesterol, sleep apnea, and type 2 diabetes. And all of those things in themselves put us at more risk for other health problems in the long run. And so some statistics in this and that I found that I thought I'd share with you. Being overweight or obese puts us more at risk for major stroke. And so there also has been studies that people who are overweight or obese have a shorter lifespan, and more of that lifespan is being concerned with cardiovascular disease, and they are more at risk and dealing more with cardiovascular issues in that time. Another really big thing is that it's estimated that people who are obese spend about $1,100 to $1,500 more in medical costs than somebody who is of normal weight. And as I said before, having a higher BMI puts us more at risk for type 2 diabetes. And so, as I mentioned before, things like certain fad diets like Weight Watchers, Atkins, South Beach diet, those diets that you've tried and helped you lose weight quickly, but they don't really teach you sustainable lifestyle habits that help you keep the weight off. Some of you may have noticed that after doing these, you lose that weight quickly, but sometimes you end up gaining it back, or maybe even gaining even more back, because they're not created to fit your life. And so these diets, like I said, don't fit your current lifestyle, and they're very restrictive in what you can and can't eat, and they aren't very sustainable. And so, like I said, you lose weight really quickly with these diets. And what that really is doing is you're losing water weight and the muscle weight, and it's not really targeting that fat loss that we would like to see. And this really also leads to more weight gained back after we finish the diet. And this is really why they don't always work as well as we really hope they do. And so this is where I come in. How do I help you? And as a naturopathic doctor, I really want to get to the root cause and the root problem and help you create lifestyle habits and use more natural things that are more attainable in your life to help you on your journey to health. And so I'm going to try to give you the tools to get started on your weight loss journey and guide you to create and incorporate more habits to support weight loss and support overall health. And so what is exactly involved in weight loss? So there are these 5 things that I think are very important on our journey to weight loss. We really need to make sure that we have attainable goals that we're going to be going over in the next few slides. Having a positive attitude is really important as well, because this is going to be as much as we're trying to keep this within your lifestyle, you are going to be making some changes, and it is going to be a little bit tough. And having more of a positive outlook and attitude towards these changes will help you make these changes and create them into more sustainable habits. And diet is another really important one. A healthy diet is very important, and an exercise routine is also important. And we're going to be going over those two things in a few slides. And another thing to note is that understanding you're not going to be perfect 100% of the time. If you do something 80% of the time and 20% you're not as good with it, it's better than not doing it at all. And that's something very important to keep in mind. And it kind of goes in with that positive attitude and positive outlook that we have when we're trying to create habits to lose weight. And so one thing that I mentioned, setting goals is very important. So you want to be able to set attainable and relevant goals for your lifestyle. And so how do you do that? If you got my workbook, you may have read it already and saw that there's something called the SMARTER sequence when you're trying to create goals. And that's something that I like to work with my patients and clients with to help them set goals. And so you really need to make sure that your goals are specific. If you want to lose weight, how much weight do you want to lose? Because this also makes them measurable. And then what steps are you going to take to reach that goal? So are you going to start exercising? How many days a week are you going to start exercising? Are you going to make some dietary changes? What different things are you going to do throughout the week to make sure that you're eating a healthier diet? And so we also want to make sure that these are relevant to your life, because if they aren't and you're setting out for a goal that is trying to exercise 7 days a week, but that's not really attainable and relevant to your lifestyle, then you're going to have a harder time reaching that goal because you are not going to be able to set out to reach those things that you made for yourself. And so this is something that I work a lot with my patients and clients with. We want to make sure that this fits your lifestyle. And when looking back to those fad diets, they aren't always relevant to our lifestyle. So that's why they aren't always attainable for you. And so we also want to have a timeline. When do you want to reach this goal? And that's very important as well, because it gives you something to look forward to down the line. So once we set these goals, how do we make sure we reach them? We're going to want to periodically check in, and that could be daily, weekly, or monthly. And so one thing that I like to do is, and tell my patients and clients to do, is to remind yourself of your goal daily. So that can be a sticky note on your mirror, or a quote, or your goal written out as your phone background, something that you look at daily that you could be reminded of why you're making the changes you're making. And then you want to check in weekly or monthly, because things change throughout the month, things change throughout the week. And by reevaluating at the end of the month, if you realized working out 5 days a week isn't working for you and you're more disappointed, first of all, you're not going to have that positive attitude. And second, this isn't working for your lifestyle. So maybe we need to readjust and find something that will work for you, because it needs to fit your life. And so this is where some of the foundations come in, some of the things that we're going to be doing to reach those goals. This right here is a chart that shows how much weight was lost, and it was a study done, and people were put into 4 different groups. And so this group right here, the end goal was to lose weight, and this goal right here, or this group right here, didn't do anything. And so we also have this group right here who exercised and they saw this amount of weight loss. So it was about 5% or under 5% in weight change. And so then we have this group right here, and you can see the difference between exercising and diet. Changing and adding some making some dietary changes gave so much more weight loss than just exercise alone. And then when you combine the both of them, you get a greater amount of weight loss as well. So this really goes to show the power of diet and exercise. And so when we do exercise, we want to get the most out of our exercise routine. And the best thing that you can do is exercise for 40 minutes a day with aerobic exercise. And so that means walking, running, bicycling, swimming, things like that, that get your heart pumping and your blood moving. And sometimes exercising 40 minutes a day isn't always attainable. So you want to make sure that you're setting a goal and periodically checking in to make sure you reach that point. Do you want to exercise every day? Because sometimes that's not attainable. So looking more at 3 to 4 times a day may be more attainable for you. And eventually, once you periodically check in and see, maybe I do have time for another exercise on another day, then you can add it in and work up to that 40 minutes a day. Walking up to 17 miles per week also produces a significant amount of weight loss. And so 17 miles a week works out to about 2.5 miles a day. And so if you are using your 40 minutes of daily aerobic exercise as walking, in that 40 minutes, you can do about 2.5 miles. And something that we're going to talk about in a little bit later is insulin. And this tip right here is that if you walk 2 hours before or after a meal, this can greatly improve insulin levels, which also further helps with weight loss. So by adding in a walk before your morning breakfast or after your dinner, you can help support your body and your hormones and your weight loss in that way. And we'll get into more of that later. Resistance training is also very important. By adding this to your aerobic exercise, you can help with weight loss and body composition because you're going to be resistance training more incorporates lifting weights or using resistance bands or even just using body weights for people, our own body weight for people who aren't ready to use weights at first. And so this really helps to bring more energy to our muscles and helps burn some of that fat because our muscles are doing more work. And as we said before, diet is very significant in our journey to weight loss. So how do we create dietary changes that are relevant to us that can still help with weight loss and that we can still enjoy what we're eating every day? And so this is how I try to help my patients and clients make the changes in their diet. So a diet diary is a really great way to get started because it takes into consideration what you're already doing. And so in the workbook that you may have, there's a diet diary written out for you. And what it entails is writing down what you eat every single day. And so for your breakfast, you write down what you ate. If you had oatmeal with peanut butter, then you write that down and you write how much you ate, when you ate it, and what you were doing while you eat, and how you felt when you ate. And this is really important because you do this for about 7 to 10 days. And then after that time, we get to investigate and we get to look at your diet diary and look for some trends that may be occurring in your week when you're eating your food. And so these are some of the questions that you can ask yourself when you do that diet diary. Do you tend to look for convenience because maybe you don't have time to cook, or you just don't really know what to cook that night, so you end up going out and getting food from somewhere else? what emotions do you feel when you reach for food? Are you reaching for food when you're more bored, or are you anxious, depressed, or stressed? What's the reason why you're eating? Is there any emotional attachment to it? And then what type of foods do you lean more towards? Are you snacking on more salty chips or Doritos or anything else? Or do you lean more towards the sweets, so like cakes and chocolates? And another question to ask yourself is, are you always eating on the go, or are you distracted while you're eating, like watching TV? And so after making those observations and investigating what's actually going on, you can create a plan. And so what can you change? So if you were someone who was looking for convenience because you didn't have time, then how can you better prepare for your week? What changes can you make? And what things that can you do that will allow you to have a healthier meal throughout the week? And is there something healthier you can replace a less healthy option with? So if you're having a soda with every meal, what can you do to replace that soda with? Maybe some seltzer water, some flavored water. If you're someone who's reaching more for the chips, maybe replace that with some trail mix or some nuts, because this will have a higher protein content and a higher fat content that will make us feel full, and we won't want to reach for those snacks as often. And so here are some foods that we can include into our diet, and some things that we can include into our diet that help aid with weight loss. The first thing that I want to talk about is fiber. So one thing that we all know about fiber is that fiber keeps us regular. Some may know that it creates a diversity in our gut microbiome, and those are just the bacteria that are in our gut. And so we always talk about how it helps with bowel movements. But fiber is really good at helping us feel full. So for example, if you take a fiber supplement before meals, you're less likely to overeat because you already have something in your stomach that's making you feel full. And it's signaling to our hormones that we've had enough. And so it also is really good at trapping some of those foods that we're eating and decreasing the calories that are being absorbed into our body. And this is one way it really helps with weight loss. And so whether it be a fiber supplement before meals or just making sure you're getting enough fiber throughout the day, this can be a very good way to help aid with weight loss. And some foods that are really good with that really have a lot of fiber in it include some pears or black beans, asparagus, and a lot of green leafy vegetables. Those are very fibrous foods. Another one that we can include is MCT oil. And so this stands for medium chain triglycerides. And so this is a fat. And some may be saying, well, if I'm trying to lose fat, why am I going to eat more fat? So medium chain MCT oil is different in the fact that it helps increase our metabolism and helps burn more calories. And it's not stored like other types of fat. So when it was compared to bigger molecules of fat, like some from vegetable oils, there was a very big decrease in body weight and BMI, body fat, and waist circumference. And so how you can incorporate this into your routine is through MCT oil, which is derived from coconut oil, or ghee, which is a clarified butter. And so how a lot of people use this is, instead of using vegetable oils when they cook, they use MCT oil or ghee. Or you can do the bulletproof coffee and put some MCT oil or ghee into your coffee in the morning. You also can use ghee as a spread on breads and things like that. Green tea is a good one for when you're trying to exercise. So incorporating green tea into your routine helps calorie and fat breakdown when you're exercising. So taking a green tea supplement or drinking some green tea about an hour to 30 minutes before you exercise really helps improve that fat breakdown. It also helps the endurance of your muscles, so making sure they're not getting tired as quickly. And then there's also some lasting effects with green tea because it improves the resting metabolism. So you're burning more calories when you're not exercising. And so there's a lot of supplements that do have, and a lot of things that they're out there that have green tea in them that you take before you exercise. And then making sure your plate is balanced. So what I mean by this is making sure that you have enough fat, enough protein, and enough carbohydrates on your plate to really help nourish your body and fuel your body. And so one really important thing that isn't really talked about as much is protein. And so it's important, especially if we're exercising or trying to lose weight, to make sure we get enough protein in our diet. And so 1.2 grams of protein per kilogram of body weight is the best amount of protein for somebody who's trying to lose weight. And so, for example, someone who's about 170 pounds would need about 92 grams of protein per day. And so why protein is important is it makes you feel full for longer. It makes you eat less. So you're filling up your stomach with less food, but you're feeling full. And this also prevents weight cycling. So it prevents the weight loss and then weight gain a few weeks later, and then the weight loss again after that. And it just prevents that cycle of being up and down on the scale. And it helps with weight maintenance. So once you lose that weight, you're able to maintain that weight for a longer period of time. And like I said before, we want to make sure our plate is balanced, and that includes carbohydrates. One that's always kind of attacked and said that we need to not eat as much is carbohydrates. And having a low carbohydrate diet isn't really sustainable, and it doesn't necessarily contribute to weight loss. What is important though is having a high quality carbohydrates on your plate instead of those low quality. And so what that means is having less of those pastries or the cakes or the white breads, making sure when you do have bread, maybe reach for the multigrain bread. Instead of white rice, reach for brown rice, and making sure that those carbohydrates that you're consuming are of higher quality. And what else can we do to help with weight loss? So one thing I think is really important is understanding what is involved in eating. So this is just a picture of all of the various organs that are involved in our digestive tract and involved in eating and breakdown of our food. And so this just goes to show how many different things are involved in our journey to weight loss, because these organs break down food. They also secrete hormones, they secrete chemicals that are very important in weight loss and feeling full or feeling hungry. And without understanding these functions, it may be harder to lose weight. And that's one thing that fad diets don't really address. And here is just a list, an overall list of the very many hormones that are involved in weight loss or are involved in eating. So many of these have a strong influence on appetite, and without addressing them, you may not be successful with your dieting because it's hard to address your chemistry if you're starving yourself. And one that we're going to look at closer is insulin. And so what is insulin? Insulin is a hormone that increases after meals. And what it does is our food is broken down into sugars, and that sugar is released into our blood. And so insulin takes that sugar and brings it to our cells so it can use it as fuel to keep us going. And sometimes our cells become so desensitized to insulin because of the high amount of sugar in our diet, and then the sugar can't get in. And so this results in high blood sugar. And so you may have noticed at some point when you go to see your doctor, they measure your blood glucose levels. And this is what they're testing is your insulin sensitivity and your glucose levels, your blood sugar levels. And so how do we help this and how do we make our body more sensitive to insulin? We want to improve the activity of it. So, like I said before, walking for about 90 minutes, 2 hours before, after meals is really helpful at improving those insulin levels because it gives a spot for all of the glucose or all of the sugar to go to. It goes to your muscles and it gets into your muscles, and your muscles use that as fuel because you are exercising. And instead of being stored as fat, they're now being used to generate heat and energy, and it's broken down and not stored as fat. Another great thing is adding cinnamon to food. So one thing I like to do is when I'm having a smoothie or having some pancakes in the morning, adding a dash of cinnamon is really great to add on to those things because it really helps insulin levels and helps sensitize our cells again to the insulin levels, and it helps that blood sugar get back into the cells. Bitters are another really big thing that help with insulin levels. And this is something as a society that we've moved away from because our food isn't as bitter anymore. And one thing that really stuck with me is one of my herbal medicine teachers taught us that the reason why we eat salads before meals is because of that bitter taste. So lettuce used to be very bitter. And one really good example of this is arugula because it's still a little bit bitter. But if you have some iceberg lettuce, it's not as bitter anymore. But arugula and vinegar with oil, this is going to be very bitter, and it helps stimulate the release of hormones and chemicals in our digestion that help with insulin sensitivity. There's also some bitter supplements that you can take before meals that help and do the same thing. And those ones, I just want to note that if you do have history of ulcers or gallbladder disease or heartburn, it may not be as helpful for you. You should stay away because it may aggravate your symptoms. But bitters are very helpful at insulin sensitivity, at sensitizing insulin to your cells again and helping with that blood sugar. And another really important thing is eating a diet that's high in fiber. And so fiber has that triple whammy there because it helps with our gut microbiome. It helps with our feeling full and feeling satiated. And it also helps with our blood sugar levels because it slows down digestion and we don't have that rush of sugar into our body when after we have a meal. And so, what can you start doing today? You can start by making a goal and making it realistic, making it something that you can reach. And I'd really encourage you to write it out and make sure you have time to review it periodically, because this is very important to make sure that you're staying on track. And then start an exercise routine that works for you. If you're struggling and you're not, if one exercise routine isn't working for you, then try something else. If walking every day is not something that's attainable for you, then maybe join a yoga studio or go to a cycling class. Do different things and try to find what works for you. Making changes to your diet and incorporate foods that we talked about today. So really take a look at what you're eating and what you're doing and make changes where you can and try to brainstorm ideas on how to make your diet better. And one thing I do like to recommend is that if something isn't working for you, make sure you have a way to stay motivated. And you can even bring in some friends or a neighbor or a partner to help keep you accountable to those goals. And then the last thing we talked about was insulin and our hormones. So make sure you're taking into consideration some of the hormones that are involved in eating and take steps to improve those levels. So walking before or after meals, incorporating some bitter foods, and doing some of those things that help improve those hormone levels. And I just want to thank you all for being here. I'm so happy you took this time and this time for yourself. I just want to let you know that for the month of March, I am offering 15% off of all my packages. If you want to take your journey to weight loss a step further, you can use the code right here when you're booking. And then if you would like to purchase any of the supplements we talked about today, you can enjoy 15% off of my online dispensary full script. And I'm gonna send a link to that in the email when I send out the recording later tonight. And so thank you all so much. And do you guys have any questions? All right, hold on, my computer is frozen. Okay, 1 second.